A number of years ago, I got called into HR. And if you've ever had HR say, "Hey, do you have a few minutes?" You know that's not usually because they want to congratulate you on something. Um, Now, I sat down with a wonderful HR leader named Nanette Gray, and she said something to me that completely changed how I think about leadership. Now, before I tell you what you said, let me explain how I ended up in her office. When I got my first role as a supervisor, I was not exactly what you would call a calm and measured leader. In fact, I was a bit of a yeller. Actually, let me be honest. I was a yeller and a screamer. Not my finest leadership moment, I will admit that. I was just talking about this actually last week when I moderated a panel on Friday on generational leadership at the New Orleans Chamber Women's Leadership Conference. And it reminded me of how often we learn leadership by copying what we see because the boss that I worked for at the time, he was a yeller and a screamer too. And so I was just taking cues from what I was seeing in his leadership style. And I think that's not untypical that when you're early in your career, you often assume that whatever leadership behavior you see, that must be how leadership works. So that's what I did. That's what I copied. Which brings me back to why HR had called me into the office. So, anyway, I sat down with Nanette and she said something that has stayed with me my entire career. She said, "You get to decide what kind of leader you want to be." Then she asked me a very simple question: "Do you want to be a yeller and a screamer?" And I remember thinking, no, actually, no, I don't want that. That's not the kind of leader that I want to be. But here's the thing that really stuck with me. Up until that moment, I hadn't realized that leadership was a choice. I thought leadership was something you inherited from your environment. You copy your boss, you mimic what you see, you repeat the behaviors that seem to work around you. But Nanette helped me see something important. Leadership isn't something you inherit, it's something you choose. You choose how you respond when things go wrong. You choose how you talk to people when you're frustrated. You choose whether you create fear or trust. And that realization changed how I led people almost immediately. Because once you understand that leadership is a choice, a powerful question emerges. What kind of leader do you want to be? Do you want to be the leader who intimidates people into compliance? Or the leader who creates an environment where people actually want to perform and perform at their best? Do you want to be the leader people avoid or the one they trust enough to bring problems to early because they know that I'm going to be there to help them? Every leader is shaped by the leaders who came before them, but we don't have to repeat every behavior we've experienced. We get to decide what we keep and what we leave behind. So here's a simple question to think about this week. When people describe your leadership, what words do you hope they use? Because whether you realize it or not, you're deciding that every single day. Good luck.